We're turning our eyes back to South Dakota. Now, last year we talked about this guy, a guy by the name of Jason Ravnsborg, who is the Attorney General of South Dakota. Last year, around September, he was involved in an accident and a man was killed as a result of it. And there were some really interesting things that happened here. Now you have the Attorney General, who is the chief law enforcement agent of a state who's in an accident. Somebody dies as a result of that accident. And you would expect sort of a standard investigation, right? You'd expect, okay, well, that doesn't happen often. Typically, that involves driving under the influence or some sort of negligence on the part of the driver. You're swerving off the road. You're on your phone. You're doing something. Unless it's just kind of a random jaywalk. But we're going to get into it. Now, the question here was, did Mr. Ravnsborg go through the same investigatory procedure that you or I would have been forced to go through? Let's dive into the story. This happened last year, but we just got the charges being read yesterday. So he has been charged with crimes, but let's take a look at what they are. This story came over from the New York Times. South Dakota Attorney General charged with careless driving in a man's death. He's been charged with careless driving, but avoided more serious felony charges like manslaughter in connection with an accident in which he struck and killed a man with his car last September. Prosecutors announced yesterday on Thursday. The Attorney General, Jason Ravnsborg, a Republican, was also charged with using a mobile electronic device and failing to stay in his lane on the night of September 12th, said Emily Sovell, the deputy state attorney for Hyde County. All three of the charges against Mr. Ravnsborg are misdemeanors. And if you were around earlier in the show, you remember I broke out, we have a civil classification, misdemeanor categories are sort of the mid-tier crimes. So civils will be traffic tickets, mid-tier will be misdemeanors. Then you have the serious offenses that are felonies. Manslaughter would have absolutely been a felony. What he's been charged with is not in that category. It's in the misdemeanor category, sort of a mid-tier offense. All three of those charges are misdemeanors. 30 days jail is the penalty, max $500 fine, said Miss Sovell. Back then in September, Mr. Ravnsborg, who's 44, he was traveling 67 miles per hour when this Ford Taurus he was driving hit Joe Bover on the shoulder of the U.S. Highway 14 outside of Highmore, South Dakota, according to the authorities. He told the authorities at the accident scene that he believed he had struck a large animal like a deer. It wasn't until the next day that authorities said that Mr. Ravnsborg returned to the accident scene and discovered Mr. Bover's body. Okay, so he's driving home. Big boom, thud. Boom, boom, boom. Think that was a deer. Going to drive on home. Thinks about it. I better go back there the next morning. Does so. Returns to the scene. Wasn't a deer. It was a man by the name of Joe Bover. So the question was back then when we first covered this, well, if you're a defense attorney, you know that, well, the next morning, all alcohol in your bodies should be gone, right? Depending on how much you drank. But it all should be gone. If you have any active metabolites of other drugs, most of those are going to be gone too. You may have some remnants of them, some inactive metabolites, some trace evidence that your body has processed the drug, but not the active metabolites, which in many states is what's necessary to convict you of a DUI. So if you're actively under the influence, that's enough. But if you have the remnants, the inactive sort of leftovers, the waste product of the active drug, many states say that that's just not enough to charge somebody with a DUI, and rightfully so, because they're not impairing metabolites. You're not impaired from that waste product. So what was the investigation? How did that look? Well, Ms. Sovell said, who is the prosecutor, Mr. Ravnsborg was treated no different than any person would have been treated under these circumstances. Although the evidence showed that Mr. Ravnsborg had been using a cell phone more than a minute before the accident, the two phones he had on him were locked at the time of the accident, and he was not talking on them, prosecutors said. The family of Mr. Bover was 55, whose pickup truck had been disabled in a nearby ditch, criticized the outcome of the investigation. So his pickup truck died. He's just walking along the side of the road. Boom. He's hit and he's killed. I think he was given preferential treatment, said Victor Nemec, a first cousin of Mr. Bover, said of Ravnsborg in an interview, quote, "The state has a long tradition of going easy on their elected officials when they commit wrongdoings. There's a definite good old boy network out here in how the state operates." which is not surprising at all. Mr. Nemec said Mr. Bover's widow was expected to file a lawsuit against Ravnsborg. Mr. Bover, who worked stints as a nurse's aide and at a grocery store, but had most recently been employed in helping his cousin haul hay on his cattle farm. Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota said on Twitter that she was taking steps to provide greater transparency on the details of the investigation. I think we have a copy of her tweet. Prosecutors said on Thursday that Ravnsborg had cooperated with investigators since the immediate aftermath of the collision, from calling 911 to providing a blood sample the next day for his toxicology results. One more time. He had cooperated with investigators since the immediate aftermath of the collision, from calling 911 to providing a blood sample the next day for the toxicology tests. He also gave investigators access to his cell phones. Toxicology results showed no signs he was under the influence of alcohol or drugs, according to prosecutors. Victim's family had questioned why he was not tested on the night of the collision. Why was he not tested on the night of the collision? Isn't that interesting? It's a good question. We'll never know. Can't presume. Came back the next day and nothing's in there. Isn't that convenient? Look, I'll tell you this, folks. It would be very nice if our law firm, anytime somebody called us and said, hey, I got a DUI, we said, all right, no problem. Did it happen last night? Perfect. Well, let's just go down to the police station in the morning or this afternoon and let's get your blood tested. Let's see what's in there. Then we can take that in front of the judge and just show him, you're good. There's nothing in there. Look, judge, there's no drugs. There's no alcohol. Clean as a whistle. What are you talking about? Because there won't be anything in there. That's the whole point. That's why they didn't take it that night. All right, we've got this. We've got the actual charging document here, folks. So he was, in fact, charged with 3 crimes. You see here, Jason Ravnsborg, no date of birth, South Dakota. We have a complaint for operating a motor vehicle while using a mobile device, class 2 misdemeanor. Improper lane driving, another class 2, and then careless driving, which is another class 2. So he was using a mobile device. He was driving a motor vehicle in East Highmore City while using a mobile device. Count 2, the defendant did, while driving a motor vehicle on a roadway divided into lanes, fail to drive said vehicle as nearly as practicable within a single lane and did move from such lane without first ascertaining that such movement could be made with safety. And then lastly, the big one, careless driving. He did drive a vehicle upon a highway without due caution, at a speed or in a manner as so to endanger any person or property, not amounting to reckless driving, as defined in 32-411. So sounds like reckless driving may have been an actual higher charge, signed off on by somebody over there, Emily somebody at the county deputy attorney's office, submitted February 17th, and notarized. Isn't that interesting? Couple 3 small misdemeanor charges, class 2s. So probably in the middle somewhere. Bower's family's not happy. He said that he was not drinking alcohol. Now, he was at an event. I remember this from the original time we reported on this, that he was, I think, at a fundraising event. So 30 days jail. And there was a question as to whether or not he was going to be arrested. So now that the charges were filed, when charges are filed, they can go and arrest you or they can send you a summons. And it sounds here like they're just going to send him a summons. They're not going to arrest him. So a judge would likely issue a summons. When asked if the average citizen would have not been arrested or allowed to go about their daily business, Sobel said that they would not have been treated any differently than Ravnsborg. And I actually think that's probably true. That is pretty true. The brother-in-law wants him to have, if he's going to be charged with 3 misdemeanors and there's 30-day penalties on each of those, they want him to have 3 consecutive penalties, right? So that would be 90 days in jail. 30 times 3, 90 days. And I get that right? I'm terrible at math. I think that's right. I'm just kidding. So it is unlikely, in my opinion, that's going to happen. I think they're probably going to run these things concurrently, meaning that let's say he does get convicted on all 3 of them. He's probably going to serve 30 days on all of them concurrently. So they'll run together. So it's kind of 2 different ways that people get sentenced in these cases. One could be concurrently, meaning all of the sentences run together, or consecutively, which is one after the other. They sort of stack them one after another. And, the question is it mandatory jail? I don't know. I didn't look up those statutes. Probably not. It's probably discretionary. It's probably a maximum amount of time. So in Arizona, for example, we don't have careless driving, but we do have reckless driving. It's a class 2 misdemeanor, just like it is there. And it's actually more of a serious penalty. It's 4 months in jail. But even if you get convicted of it, the judge is probably not going to give you jail unless it was a really egregious type of case, because it's not mandatory. But if you get a DUI, there is mandatory jail. And, I don't know what the rule is there, but is he going to do any jail? Probably not. This is what the governor had to say. My heart goes out to Joseph Bover's family. I'm not going to comment on the specifics of Ms. Soville's decision. I am directing the Department of Public Safety to share additional details of the investigation with the public within the next week. And that came out yesterday. So presumably there's going to be more information about this stuff. He's not going to get charged. They've already made their decision. And so that's the end of that case. I mean, to be fair, he was charged, right? He was charged with 3 crimes, but not charged with a more serious manslaughter charge. And probably because it's not justified, because there's no evidence, because he was not tested that night. He was tested the next day. So that's very convenient. We got another one from Ma Fox says, it's a constant fight between criminal defense attorneys and police to race to the defendant first. It is, Ma. That's a very astute observation. Defense attorneys and the police racing to the defendants first. 99 out of 100 times the police are there first, right? Especially in a situation like this. We really, really, really encourage people to call a defense attorney like immediately. As soon as you see the lights go on. If you can get a defense attorney on the phone, that is a good solution, because if the police get there, they will do what they can to not openly prevent you from talking to an attorney, but they'll try to preclude that from happening, because they know as soon as an attorney gets on the phone, the whole investigation takes a different course. Rightfully so, because they're basically asking you to forego a bunch of your rights. They want you to just acquiesce to everything and just comply with all of their requests, even though you don't have to. And there's no penalties for not, right? It's your right against self-incrimination. There are some things you have to comply with and some things that you don't, but they're going to do what they can to get control of the investigation, as they call it, and maneuver it to serve their end, which is to enforce the law, whatever their conception of that is, which is typically to charge people with crimes. Right? That's their version. That's what their job is. It's to charge people with crimes. They wouldn't agree with that. They would say, no, we're out there to enforce justice, public safety, and all of that stuff. But those are not the KPIs that they use. Those are not the key performance indicators. Right? It's about enforcement. Many cities and states, it's about revenue that they generate. So good point there, Ma. We got Cattle Kill Giver says, didn't he claim he didn't know he hit a person until the next day? That would make taking a blood sample the night of impossible. Also, there was no witnesses. Yeah, I don't think that there were any witnesses. I think didn't he call his chief of staff, if I'm remembering correctly? He called his chief of staff, went over there. So there was some question about why he didn't call the police right away. Why did he call his chief of staff? Why did he spend it over there? Just kind of an irregular investigation. Or if you're the attorney general, don't you think you'd call the police? Right? I mean, you're the attorney general. This wasn't some random guy. This is the chief law enforcement officer of the state. And if you hit an animal, I don't practice in South Dakota, but I'd guess that you're involved in an accident. You want to alert some authority. Hey, there's a deer in the road back there. It's huge. Didn't call any authorities, called his chief of staff, I think went over there, and then they went back the next day, and that's where they found him. So there could have been witnesses, but he didn't want him there. He could have gone that night and given a blood sample, but he didn't. And he is the attorney general. This isn't some average Joe who's like, well, I don't know. I didn't know I was supposed to call the police. He's the number one law enforcement person in the entire state. So he knew exactly what to do to make sure he didn't get popped, right? Tim MCD says, according to a report I read, he was coming from a political event in Redfield. Witness said he hadn't been drinking at that time. Folks, I'm always going to be skeptical about this stuff. Always. He could very well be innocent. Very well be innocent. But I will always be skeptical of this stuff, right? If if this type of situation happened to another non-politician, there would probably be new charges, right? You'd probably have a criminal charge for leaving the scene of an accident, probably absolutely a negligent homicide charge or a manslaughter charge. This guy's getting off easy for killing somebody. Now, maybe that's just how they do things in North Dakota. I don't know. We got Want to Know, says, keep the mouth shut and call the attorney. No one has ever talked themselves out of anything with cops. The best advice Dad ever told me, don't talk to the cops. Shut the F up. Yeah, that's pretty good advice. You know, I think Chris Wiseman actually in over on Locals, which is where these questions come from. I forgot to mention that. They are, he actually asked a question about asking us to do a video to give our opinions on whether or not you should talk to the cops. But I think Ma and some others in that comment thread, they basically said, don't ever talk to the cops. And I was thinking, well, Chris, I can't make a video about it because I would just get on here and say, yeah, don't talk to the cops. And you would say, like, ever? Yeah, ever. And scene. That's the end of the video. It's done, right? That's it. No, don't. You will not talk yourself out of it. You might make the cops mad, but you're making them mad because they're not able to incriminate you. So it's worth it. We have Jorgen Johnson says, my father was struck and killed by a texting driver a year and a half ago. The driver was deleting text messages when the police got there. He got 1,000 hours of community service and pays mom $150,000. Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty big penalty. I wonder if he was convicted of a crime, probably for that. That might be restitution that was related to a criminal conviction. Restitution. Yeah, we'll see what Ravnsborg gets. I'm not holding my breath that there's going to be any serious repercussions for him. And I think actually after we covered this last time, I got some emails from people who said, "Oh yeah, like you're spot on. That it's ridiculous out there. This just whole blue shield that goes on in that small town or whatever it is." So. Good questions. We have one more from Zorro on this segment. Looks like, can you say no to the field sobriety test, Zorro? So in Arizona, the answer is yes to that. Now in other states, I don't know, and I can't give you any legal advice on that. But in Arizona, I can tell you yes. You can refuse those. You can refuse what's called a PBT, a portable breath test, or some people call it a preliminary breath test. It's a PBT either way. And that's the handheld test on the side of the road, right? I'm talking about Arizona, not other states. In Arizona, if an officer comes up to you and says, hey, can blow into this thing on the side of the road, it's a handheld device, you can say, no, thanks. I've been advised not to do that. Okay, that's no problem. Will you look into this pen test? Sorry, officer. Been advised not to do that. Okay, well, how about you walk on this line? Just put one heel in front of, nope. Been advised not to do that. Okay, stand on one leg. Nope. None of those. In fact, I'd like to just talk to my attorney right now. Hopefully you have an attorney's phone number in your cell phone. You just, boop, thanks. I'm going to step right over here. Make that phone call in private. We'll walk you through what to do next. Don't have to do any of that stuff. So other states, I think that there are some states that also give you the freedom to deny those. Really, the distinction here is, yes, you have the right to refuse that in Arizona, and there are no penalties. But once you get arrested and taken down to the station, if you refuse then an intoxilizer device, which is not a handheld preliminary breath test, it's a big intoxilizer machine, sort of looks like a microwave with a little bit of a hookah hose that comes out, you blow into it. If you refuse that test, then you have some ramifications for your driver's license, which is different. So with DUIs, there's sort of two different parallel processes. You've got criminal court and you have the driver's license, your MVD or DMV, whatever your state says. So it's dependent upon your local rules. So talk to a local lawyer if you want more answers on that, but that's how it works in Arizona. I just went off way too long on that. Jeremy Matrita says, my question is, if he didn't know that he hit a person that night, how does he know he hit a person just because he went back the next day and found a body? Isn't it possible the body was there by coincidence? Yeah, that's a good point, Jeremy. It's a good point. Maybe the guys, I don't know. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, it could have been a coincidence. I don't have anything to say about that comment. All right, Jeremy, I was going to go into something, but that's just not appropriate. We're going to leave it. We're going to leave that alone. All right, our next story. We're wrapping up today with a couple of bad Popo. It's Friday. It's Bad Popo Friday. We've got two of them. We're going to talk about, if you missed the prior segment, we just talked about prosecutor Brad Ravnsborg, kind of a bad attorney general. So now we're going to transition into bad Popo. And we've got two of them. Our first one comes from Des Moines, Iowa. This came from a local news agency, kcci.com. Criminal complaint. A Des Moines Police Department officer tried to obtain evidence in an investigation of his girlfriend. Oh, you're going to use your official access to investigate your girlfriend? That is not a very good relationship. Okay, you have to have a strong foundation of trust in your relationships. Senior officer with Des Moines Police Department is on paid administrative leave after being arrested in Altoona. Senior officer Rodney Allen Briggs was charged with non-felonious misconduct in office after he reportedly used his police credentials to access video connected to an investigation into his girlfriend. According to the criminal complaint, he introduced himself to the staff at the Southeast Polk District School Office as a peace officer and asked to access the video. The criminal complaint said Briggs, quote, did not mention he was doing this as a private citizen under the color of his badge. The complaint goes on to say that Briggs was aware of the investigation into his girlfriend and that he was doing this for a friend who was being targeted by the Altoona Police Department. According to Des Moines Police Sergeant Paul Perizek, Briggs has worked for the department for 4 years. And this is what this fellow looks like over here. Now, I kind of go back and forth on these bad Popo segments. It feels a little bit mean to me, but so does posting all of our clients' mugshots on the internet. That's pretty mean too. Just blasting people out on the internet. You probably have them in your home state, in your city, where they just capture everybody's mugshots and they just blast them all over the internet. Now, most of the time, the cops who get in trouble, their mugshots don't make it to those websites. So that's why we are doing a public service here to make sure that we just talk about them ever so briefly. The other little distinction here is that our clients typically, or the people that you see on the mugshot websites, they didn't swear an oath to be a part of law enforcement, to preserve and defend and uphold and serve your community and all of that stuff. And they're also not entrusted with special powers and special privileges that are protected by the badge. They are just regular citizens who never made that commitment and who never were delegated very severe power. These people were, and they exploit the hell out of them. And this guy was going to go and try and help his girlfriend get out of potential misconduct, help her beat an investigation that was taking place into her. So it is just so inappropriate that we just have to stop and talk about it for just a little bit, just to make sure that that this news story is immortalized on internet history, don't we? We have another one. This one is from Georgia deputy charged with rape and incest. All right, Georgia sheriff's deputy has been arrested on sex crimes charges. According to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, we have Zachary Williams, age 39, was arrested on January 28th. GBI officials say Williams was employed as a deputy with the Walker County Sheriff's Office at the time of his arrest. Williams was booked into the Chattooga County Jail. He's been placed on administrative leave following the arrest. I wonder if he's getting paid. Is he getting paid? Like those Capitol Hill officers? Good question. So this is Zachary Williams, age 39. Another bad Popo, Zachary Williams. That's a pretty gruesome one. Don't even want to comment much on that. Rape and incest. Okay, well, we'll see what the police unions want to do about that. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for our Friday. We're going to wrap up a little bit early. I want to thank everybody who is supporting the show over on locals.com. Thank you very, very much for your love and support. These people are on the list, and let me move myself over here today. I want to thank Cody Bear 1 we saw in the house today. Sharon Quidney's always here. Good to have you, Sharon. Pinky 2. We got SMK and Joe 78. Seiji Takahara. We got Chris Bean 101. Moving on, we got Cats 59. Rolf 77. B Campy. We got Matt Maker, Jenny Schnookums. We also have Virginia Mary, XN Drew. We got _ Shades, Drew 11. Then we're moving on, and we've got Vice. We've got Big Dog 1111. We've got Ugly Douglin. We've got Get Some Skates, and then we've got a couple new people who joined us over on locals.com. Thank you for doing so. We're grateful to have you here, and we're excited that you're part of the community now. We've got Drag, who signed up. We got Carolina flying in the house. We have Meta Investigator, like that. We got Adela Van, Addie Lavin, Adelavan. Welcome. We're grateful that you are now part of the Watching the Watchers community. We're excited for you. It's going to be fun. We're going to share some links. We're going to share some stories, meet some people, and have some good conversation over there. So thank you to the 4 of you who recently joined up. We're grateful to have you a part of the crew over there. This is some stuff that is available if you want to head on over there. Of course, you can get a copy of my book for free. Download it over on Locals. We also have a copy of the slides, the PowerPoint slides. Miss Faith is going to be posting those over there. Then we also have the impeachment party templates that you can grab, a copy of my existence system, which is a personal productivity little tool, have links and conversations that are always being shared. And of course, the real reason is because there are great people over there, a lot of good people, and we want you to get plugged in. You know, we're sort of at this stage where we're trying to build a little bit of a community, and the more people that we get over there, the bigger network effect that we have, the more it's kind of fun to use it and engage. And so you're helping us build a little bit of a bigger pillar of free speech over on Locals. So thanks for heading on over there. The last thing from me, well, not the last thing, by the way, did you know this? You heard from Miss Faith previously. She came on the program when we crossed 100K. I just learned this. She is in this contest right now. And if you go to her Instagram page, I think you can probably still see it. I think the link is in the description. She's in this contest where she needs votes. And I was kind of perusing through Instagram, and I noticed on there that she's in 7th place. 7th. And I'm thinking, this is a travesty. We can't let this stand. So, the last thing that I would ask you, the second to the last thing, to click on Miss Faith's little link there to her Instagram. Give her a vote. You got to be logged into Facebook. I did that this morning. And voted because she is the best chef. And it's sort of, we talk a lot about injustice here. A lot. There's a lot of injustice taking place in this world. But the fact that she is not number one might be the biggest injustice I've ever seen. So I would encourage you to show her a little bit of love. She would never ask me to do this. She's probably over there pounding her head against the wall. But I'm doing it anyways. Because she's awesome. She's a great chef. She's doing good work over on Instagram, and we want to beef those numbers up. So if you have any love, if you have a 2 minutes, click that link. Show Miss Faith a little bit of love. She'd appreciate that. Last thing for me, I'm a criminal defense lawyer. I'm not going to belabor this point. If you know anybody who's been charged with a crime in the state of Arizona, we're very, very good at helping people through the system and getting them outstanding results and making sure that they are not turned into that their lives are not in a worse position as a result of what happened in their lives. We want to help them get better, get back on track, and move things forward. We're very good at it. We'd appreciate a referral if you have one. We'd be very honored and humbled if you trusted us enough to send them our way. That's it from me, my friends. I will be back here on Monday. I do not expect to do a show tomorrow. I have got some other things that have just been on the back burner because I've been so sort of consumed with this digital Bill of Rights. It's been like a fun little thought experiment, but there are some other things that I got to attend to, and I got to do it tomorrow. So I'm not going to be probably not doing a show tomorrow, but if I am, I will notify you in Locals, and I'll also update our community page over on YouTube. Other than that, I want to thank you so much once again for being a part of the program. I have a lot of fun here. I really enjoy our time together. Thank you for the great questions. Thank you to Ma. Thank you to Faith. Everybody have a very wonderful evening, a very lovely weekend. I am going to be back here Monday for sure on 5 p.m. Arizona time, which is Mountain Time, 4 p.m. in California, 6 p.m. Central in Texas, 7 p.m. on the East Coast. I'm also going to be poking around on Clubhouse this week. So Clubhouse is a new app that I got. I'm not an iPhone person, but I did get an iPad that allows me to hop on there. It's interesting. I'm going to be playing around with it. I'm not going to be doing much on there yet because I know many of you don't have that particular platform, but it's a cool little app. And so if you want to connect on there, find me over there at Robert Gruler ESQ. Just look up my name and let's connect. That'd be fun. I'm actually listening to a lot of stuff on there, and I want to see how this app evolves because it feels like people are having a lot of good conversations there. So check me out over there. Maybe we can even talk over the weekend. So Clubhouse is a good app. If I don't see you there, I'll see you back here, same time, same place next week. Have a lovely, lovely weekend, everybody. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.